We all know that Daniel Andrews is the king of Danistan, and Victorians seem to love his leadership. Obviously, not those who don't vote for him, but sadly, enough who do. Well, as you know, he's over in China right now, but there's no possibility of giving any interviews at all because he's just so damn busy. There's no moments in between meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. In fact, that is exactly why he said the media's not coming with him to Beijing.
Doesn't say anything. It says that we're having a series of meetings back to back, and I don't think I've taken media on every single trip that I've ever done. There'll be other trips this year to lots of different parts of the world potentially. We still haven't firmed that up, but you'll be appropriately invited to those, and we've made our choice. You can have a view on that. That's entirely your job. Our partnership with China is incredibly important for our income, for our industry, for investment, for jobs, and for the strongest possible future.
Okay, you've heard all that. But there is a chance that he may do an interview. It just won't be with an Australian news outlet. You see, of course, the last time that he went to China, he did have a chat to Chinese television. And while I'm not fluent in Cantonese or anything to be able to read the graphics, I'm pretty sure that is an interview that was being done in front of not just a little red book, but lots of big red books close to his heart. And I'm sure he knows every single word of them off by heart, where, of course, he turns around and talks about how important the relationship is. This is the message that he takes to China, but he's not willing to send back to Australia.
The Chinese story is absolutely central to the Victorian story for more than 150 years. You can't imagine a modern Victoria without the Chinese influence. Good friends can disagree. True friends do not disrespect, though, and that's always the approach that I've taken. You can have an honest dialogue, but it needs to be a respectful dialogue.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he's a very honest friend. Now, in Australia, for some reason, we're in this bizarre scenario where to be critical of the dictatorship in China supposedly offends 1.4 million Australians of Chinese descent. I don't understand. Nobody thinks that when you attack Vladimir Putin, you're attacking anyone who's Russian in Australia. But the Labor Party, well, they're more than happy to play this game that somehow being critical of China means you're being critical of people of Chinese descent who live here. It's just not true. But it's something that many a politician has been stoking as parts of fear of many Chinese voters here, not to mention part of the propaganda that they're getting through WeChat and local news, which, as we've told you before, is heavily influenced by what happens in Beijing. Now, while hypocrisy is nothing new to Daniel Andrews, and he seems completely impervious to it, both personally and politically, it doesn't mean you don't point it out when it's there. Last week, when it was politically advantageous for him to say that he was backing in the trans community, a minority community in Victoria, he was going to fly the trans flag, and his actual tweet, "We'll always have your back," because, you know, he's all about freedom and respecting everyone. So is there any chance that he's going to bring up the plight of an Australian journalist who is in jail? The crime not clear, apart from the obvious that it has displeased the Chinese government. Any chance of talking about 1 million people who are currently enslaved in Uyghur camps? No. The Chinese story is like the Victorian story. And when asked about whether he'll be bringing up the scenario of Cheng Lei and plenty of others, here's was his response.
There are a number of people that are in custody. I just want to make it very clear that would not be something that I would raise because they are deeply sensitive matters, and they're best dealt with by the Australian Foreign Service.
So it's in the too hard basket. The trans community, though, protesting against women being able to speak about the extremes that are changing their lives. No. They get crushed by the great machine that is Daniel Andrews. Daniel Andrews is the modern game for Labor, which is the government is as big as possible, and you either work for the government, you are either dependent on the government as a citizen, or if you have a private business, you're in service of the government. Everything else is surplus to need and never cracks anywhere near 40%, let alone 50%, which means he keeps winning and winning and winning and winning because too many people are connected to the great teat that is the government in, not Beijing, but in mini Beijing, of course, that being the Andrews government in Victoria.